Kubrat Pulev, obviously in the build-up, was, let's call it being the bad guy, trying to get under your skin a little bit. Could you sense that? Did you expect that?
It's just part and parcel of the game, yeah, and I respect it because it's part of the art of war, psychological warfare they call it, because, you know, if you believe it, you can achieve it, but I'm built different. It's hard to break my armor. But I do truly believe that once you're in the ring and I start finding my feet and start doing what I need to do, no matter what you tell yourself, your body just can't stand it. Yeah. So I believe that the talk was good. It was part of like hyping the fight. Whether it is or he's being true to himself, he says what he has to say. But I just think when I do my talking in the ring, not many have been able to withstand the blows that I give out. And, you know, I would have loved to have been fighting, like, you know, bring Mike Tyson back and let me fight him. These are names that the world knows. Bring Muhammad Ali back, bring Lennox Lewis back. But unfortunately, I've got to fight the guys in front of me. And these are the names that are in front of me, and I've fought. And
what's good, family? Smash the like button and subscribe. So we just heard there from Anthony. The guts pushing up Anthony, pushing all up in the guts. Joshua. Now, again, I want to do some, people talk about foreplay and role play. I want to do some wordplay right here, because these words, this right here, I feel like doing my own little series. To Anthony Joshua, the guts, listen, AJ gets up in the guts and mixes it all up, yeah? That's what we do know. But the words here, what AJ speaks here is, anyway, let me just get to the analysis, because I'm not even sure, it's hard to put into words what I'm trying to communicate. Hopefully I can just get it out. Let's break down what he said word for word. When I find my feet, no matter what you tell yourself, your body can't stand it. These men do all the talking, but they can't. They talk all the talk, but they can't walk the walk. When I talk in the ring, no one to this day has been able to answer. I've read it out again, but let's take it from a jump. When I find my feet, think about AJ, not so much these days, because he ain't really finding his feet, if the truth be known, all that dancing stuff. In the old days, when AJ found his feet, them shots would just ring off. Think about, I swear, don't listen to what I'm saying, yeah? Go back and watch Cant. That fight's almost perfect example. He's fighting a smaller man. Who do you know backs up the smaller man? Never happens. Fury had to run around. Let's call a spade a spade. When Fury tried to do that, he went in there with John McDermott. Someone nowhere near as... Cant would wash McDermott. Cant would wash Chisora. I'll tell you, like, he got murdered. But that was after AJ moistened him up. Let's be honest now. That was well after. AJ got this effect on people. Look at Dillian White. Dillian White was rock hard. Kickboxing Don. AJ loosey-gooseyed his chin, and now he's Nate Robinson Don. Yeah? Nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying. AJ has gene-altering power. Look at Dominic Brumzeel. Another one. AJ loosey-gooses him up, Wilder comes in afterwards and everyone's cheering. Innit? Everyone's, oh, look what Wilder did. No, not really, look, not really. Look what AJ did 3 years ago, and it's now, what do we do with meat? Makes me laugh. When we have a nice seasoned steak, if you've seasoned a steak and it's sat in the fridge, I don't know, for a few days, and it's nice and seasoned, and we enjoy it and it's tender, no one has a problem accepting seasoned steak is going to be more tender. However, AJ seasons Brazil up, seasons Takam up, people knock them out and everyone's talking about, oh, look at what, not Chisora, but look what Wilder did, look what Chisora did. No, look what AJ did years ago, seasoned them up. Look what Dillian White, people say, oh, look what Povetkin did. No, look what AJ did. Dillian White wasn't dropping from them shots. Dillian White was not dropping from them shots until AJ loosey-gooseyed him up. Yeah? Made him loose as a goose. Got all up in the guts. Made him loose. Simple as that. Never the same again. Pop the cherry. That's the best way of putting it, actually. Pop the cherry. Anthony, the cherry popper, Joshua. No doubt. 100% confirmed. The science is there. It's statistically proven. When AJ gets up in the guts, they ain't the same again. And no doubt. Who do you know? Look at Vlad. Another perfect example. Vlad. No one's ever stopped Vlad. Even Feary. No one's ever stopped Vlad in the second half of his career. AJ on one of his worst nights, in my opinion, overweight, out of shape, all over the place, truth be known. Nonetheless, he whoops Vlad so hard. In fact, That's the reason I'm doing this video, because listen to the words AJ's saying. What was Vlad saying? People forget this. People have got very short memories. Never mind the seasonings. What was Vlad saying? Let me play you a tape now, quickly. 1 sec. Very nice. I got the tape. I have tape. I like tape. I have recording. I have tape. I play tape. I have USB. That was actually USB. I have USB, and I'm gonna sell USB on eBay. That's what he was saying, 100%. I've got tape, I've got recording, I've got USB. You know what I mean? AJ goes in there, gives him the good Gordon Ramsay, seasons him all over, gives him the Levi roots. Yeah? Gives him all the Levi roots. All that flavourings he gives him. Rematch clause. What? Vladimir, don't worry about the USB. Do you want free $20 million? Just get in there with AJ and fall over in the 3rd round? No, keep it. Don't worry about the 20 million. I'm happy where I am. I've been seasoned enough, thanks. That's what he said. I saw the emails. People forget that, or people think when Assange hacked them emails, he also hacked Vlad's emails. And one in them hacked Vlad emails was in there. No thanks, I've had enough seasoning, thank you. Yeah? That's what we do know. So the point is, you don't appreciate the levels we're talking here. And AJ saying the same thing, but what's important to appreciate here is, the point I'm getting with this, and it's been a similar theme over the last little while. When I find my feet, when you find your feet, 100% true, but at the moment, I don't care what no one says, the feet it's not sitting the same. Watch the Cam fight. The Cam fight's the best example of this, because he's fighting a smaller man who's a banger. Takam's a banger. Even in the Chisora fight, he's a banger. He's banging in there. AJ was in there with a smaller man, digging away, stunting. You really have to watch that fight. If you don't believe what I'm saying, watch that fight. AJ, the shot's just bouncing off. He's like Robocop, no joke. AJ's like Robocop. Don't even tell me about Ruiz. Takam would have knocked Ruiz out, truth be known. Ruiz is alright. He's alright. He's a solid fighter, straight up and down. Nothing special. He's alright. He ain't got no power. Bob Arum said it the best. I had to get rid of Ruiz because no one don't want to watch him. Too boring. He got lucky on AJ's, literally, that was AJ's worst night. I'm talking it's AJ's worst performance. Not just because he lost, just all in all. And AJ himself, we know how humble AJ is, and even if you don't believe AJ is humble, we know that he ain't a liar. I don't care what no one says. Is he perhaps a bit too media, whatever you want to call it? Probably, yeah. And that proves to you I'm not a liar. I'm not just going to ride someone. I don't reverse cowgirl people. So with that in mind, I think he could be a bit more raw. Nonetheless, he's not a liar. So when he says to you, yeah, there was something wrong that night, but I might put it in my book, I don't think that's just to say. I think if he'd got washed and he felt great and things were normal, he wouldn't have said nothing. And put that to one side, just look at the guy. Never mind what he did say or didn't say. Something like the eyes, and I can see the eyes. I read the eyes. The eyes was looking, I don't know what was going on there. It was some clone thing, no doubt. So that's Ruiz done. Takam, AJ would have bust Ruiz up here the same way he bust Takam up. Similar kind of fight. Yes, Ruiz's hands are quicker, but they're not as heavy. Takam's got them big African, like, hammer fist hands. Big weaving shots. Not as fast, given, but he's got more power than Ruiz does. Ruiz is like pity patter. Go and watch Ruiz in all of his other fights. Ruiz don't stop no one. Do you understand that? People think that AJ made Ruiz look like Mike Tyson. And we saw what happened in the rematch. The shot's bouncing off. Didn't do a lick to no one. Couldn't hurt no one. Bob Arum had to get rid of him because he was so boring, had no power. He was all, it looks good. It reminds me of, who's that guy? I guess Ryan Garcia's got a bit of power, but it's that social media power. Oh, look how he's throwing 5 million shots at once. They look good, but they don't have no effect. And we're going to find out anyway. Let's see how Ruiz does get on in the rest of his career now. Let's see if he is a massive puncher as everyone's made him out to be. I don't believe he is. I believe if AJ had been trained to, I believe if AJ was under Shane McGuigan when he fought Ruiz would have been knocked out. I swear down. Especially that Ruiz, who was out of shape. He'd have got a shock of his lifetime. AJ would have been in there just digging away. And he'd have fell over about 10th round. Now that was I'll give it to Ruiz. Ruiz was a 10th round finish for me. AJ versus Ruiz with Shane McGuigan in the corner. That's a 10-round finish. Not Pulev. Pulev is in his prime. Sorry, Ruiz is in his prime. Much more sturdy than Pulev. Vlad knocked Pulev out in the 4th, for example. That was a much more prime Pulev. I never before cracked Pulev. Vlad popped Pulev's cherry, and AJ should have done it much quicker. And that's the point I'm trying to get at here. Well, AJ's been doing this for a while, and that's why I'm doing this video. And that's why I've been doing this kind of series on AJ's Words. AJ's Words, and even AJ's performances, to some extent, or parts of AJ's performances, have not been lining up. His mentality and what he wants to do, or from what I'm perceiving at least, it's not lining up at the moment. Like, for example, how many times now in the build-up, and I guess this is the problem, you see, people say things like, oh, well, look, he stopped Pulev. Yes, but I can't stress it enough. These guys, from what I see in AJ, his ability, his genetics, the body he's got, the mentality he's got, these guys should be going 2-3 rounds. Do you understand? That's what I'm getting at here. Pulev should not be a 10-round fight. So don't tell me, oh, well, look, he stopped Pulev. That's not the point. Or maybe it is. If you think that's as good as AJ can do, then I understand your position. If you're telling me YB, AJ was his absolute best, and that's the best he can do against Pulev, I understand, but I disagree. I believe heavyweights today, none of them make out the first half of the fight with AJ. None of them do. Now, Ruiz maybe, you know what I'm saying? But the point is, it's one of them ones for me. Pulev, outside of the top, maybe Fury might get to the 8th or something, but outside of the very top 2, none of them make it out of the first half of the fight. And I'm being generous saying Fury and maybe Ruiz make it to the second half. Maybe. Who knows? AJ on a roll. Do you know what I'm saying? AJ, you know what I mean? AJ getting back in the swing of things. There's nothing to say that they can't be the first 6 rounds too. But what's important here is, over the last few fights, we've heard AJ say things like, and it really starts back from the, who was it? Pig Baby Miller. Pig Baby Miller, AJ said, I'm going to dissect this Don. Yeah, I'm going to operate on this Don. And that was for the build-up for the Ruiz fight. Then there's a few other ones in there. I'm not sure about the Ruiz fight, but definitely for the Pulev fight. AJ said, what did he say? Before the Pulev fight, he said some real aggressive words. And then we saw the performance. It was mismatched. Obviously, there were points in the fight, and this is what I'm getting at. There was points in the fight where AJ was going completely ferocious, which tells me, subconsciously, it's burning in there. It wants to come out. His words here saying, when I set my feet. When I find my feet, no one can hold the shots on the earth today. And scarily enough, even in this sentence, later on in the same interview, or literally in this, just about 10 seconds after this clip finishes off, AJ says, I would have loved to put these hands on Ali and Tyson, but I have to do it with the people I've got around me today. I don't have that caliber around me today. Exactly, that's the point. So he's even saying kind of the same thing I'm saying. You're right, 100%. Ali, Tyson, or whoever else, they were a different level, and maybe you're right. It would be more interesting. But the dons you've got around you today, they can't hold the shots you've got. They do like to talk. But when they get in the ring, they're not one of them man have been able to hold a shot. But the things you're saying there, the ferociousness we saw in the Pulev fight, where was that in the Ruiz rematch? Do you know what I'm saying? That's what I'm getting at. The divergence, the words are there, the intent's there. That needs to be in every performance. There isn't not one Don on the earth today who AJ should be saying, let's just get through 12 rounds on this one. And now I understand. I empathise with the, oh, well, I've lost business. I've lost against Ruiz and now I just want to win. But that's what greatness is. Well, that's what the pinnacle of greatness is. Losing and coming back with a vengeance. Lennox Lewis, for example. He lost. Did he lose and say, oh, I've lost now. I got chinned. And he got chinned in much worse fashion. Let's call a spade here. And this is what frustrated me the most about AJ and arguably his team. Lennox Lewis got chinned, yeah, in the first round, or either way, it was the first few rounds. He got chinned with one shot. AJ has never showed vulnerability like that. Same as Dillian White. Dillian White and Lennox got chinned in the first few rounds, and they was on their best nights as such. There was their man weren't nothing wrong with them. They weren't zombified. They weren't cloned. Dillian White was having one of his career best performances, and then he got chinned. AJ was on the worst night for him to jump. Came out all hesitant, and he looked all, eyes weren't all there, and whatever else. And even so, AJ never lost consciousness. He never got clipped and just went zombie and went rolled-eyed and flopped to the floor. Lennox was clean out, head bounced off the floor like a basketball. And what's important here is, look how they bounced back. If anyone, should have been scary. If anyone's team should have been saying, well, Lennox, you just got chinned. Let's just get through this fight for 12 rounds. It should have been Dillian, innit? Or Lennox. Because they got knocked out in a lot worse fashion than AJ did. Didn't they? Let's be honest with me. If you disagree, say you disagree. Dillian got knocked out a lot more coldly. Lennox got knocked out a lot more coldly. And a lot more quicker as well. AJ battled on, and AJ even, and again, this highlights the talking points. AJ even said after the Ruiz fight, before the rematch, bro, you couldn't put me out on my worst night. If you're that powerful, you couldn't put me out on my worst night. You've got no chance now. If on my worst night, you couldn't put me out properly, you can put me out of my misery, what do you think you're going to do? And that, I agree 100%, but where was that in the performance? Dillian White, Lennox Lewis again. They get beat in worse fashion. Their chins look more vulnerable, which, mathematically speaking, should have told them we need to take less risk than AJ, because we got knocked out worse. Instead, they did, you know what I'm saying? They came back with more aggression, and look how they performed in devastating fashion. And that's what is missing at the moment, and I believe it's the team. A lot of it. I'm not saying it's... Oh, of course, it comes down to AJ's responsibility as well. But main part for me is the team, because we've seen both other sides of the team. Lennox's team was on it. Dillian White team was on it. They believed in him. They were like backing him. It was 50-50. They was meeting each other in the middle. You want to stop? You want to murk Povetkin? We want to murk Povetkin. They was building off each other, thriving off each other, bouncing off each other, building each other up. That's what a team does. Not, oh, you just got chinned. AJ, you're no good for nothing now. We better turn into a dancer. Dillian said the other day that AJ and Fury have swapped positions. I kind of think, I can't even... What can you say to that? Fury's now the come forward guy, and AJ's a dancer. Like, what are we doing? What is this? I feel like I'm in a... People talk about there being different universes. I feel like I'm in the wrong universe. I think I'm in the worst one. Like, what? It was all perfect, and it's true what AJ says. But the words need to... The same way he was telling Ruiz, on my worst night, you couldn't do nothing. And you heard my videos. I was shouting from the rooftop. Exactly. That's why we bust this guy up. Now, that doesn't mean you run in there with chin in the air and start swinging, but it does mean Shane McGuigan style, Josh Taylor style. If AJ fought like Josh Taylor, it takes time to learn or whatever, but Josh Taylor doesn't have the pound-for-pound power that AJ does. He doesn't have the natural abilities AJ does. If he applies that level of skill from McGuigan, which he can, there's no reason he can't, because AJ's proven by his dancing ability now. He's been able to learn, he's been able to conquer. He's arguably a better boxer than Fury is now. Fury wouldn't stop Pulev in 10 rounds. Fury couldn't... His cousin got murked by Pulev. That same goofy style got murked by Pulev. Let's call a spade a spade. AJ's learned that whole style in about a year, which is great for that side of things, but not what he's best at. Not what will make him thrive the most in the world today. His body's made to be a tromping machine. It needs to be fed. Yeah? AJ's a walking lippy machine. Get his lipstick out. That's when he fights the best, when his lipstick is out. No doubt. When I find my feet, no matter what people say, they can't hold the shots. They can't hold them. Cam was in there getting worked. And then he tried to, when it was all over and it was all safe again, he tried to, it was a ref. No, it weren't the ref. You were getting touched and you weren't firing back. Yeah? I love them ones, don't you? And when someone's getting touched, yeah, listen, Cam wasn't moaning when he was in there getting touched. The minute the referee steps in and it's all over and you're not getting touched no more, all of a sudden you want to protest. Wait a minute. Why are you putting your hands in the air protesting? Why weren't you firing back? Isn't it though? If you're so much in the fight that the referee shouldn't step in, why weren't you firing back? Isn't it? If you were so comfortable, why weren't you firing back, boss? It's no good putting your hands up now when all the smoke's turned off and you haven't got the 6'6" beast digging away on you. We can all protest afterwards. Now the ref's in the way. You weren't protesting. You weren't fighting back. So, and then obviously he loosey-gooseyed you up, and then Chisora will finish you off, as always happens historically. AJ goes in there, pops their cherry, and the next Don stick it on them, they fall over. It's not coincidence. Every time it's happened. Brazil, Dillian White, even Povetkin actually. Yes, even Povetkin. Every single one of them. Every single one of these dudes. Brazil, Povetkin, Vlad. What was the other guy? Brazil, Povetkin, Vlad. There's another one, wasn't there? Just mention it. Takam, that was it. All of them. AJ bust them up, and the next Don who touches them properly, they just fall over. They can't. He changes who they are. He just changes their soul. They go from being these real warriors, which they still are, but I'm saying their ability to hold a shot. AJ will turn you into Chuck Liddell. That's what he does. He sends you into Chuck Liddell mode, where you just can't even hold a jab. No doubt, 100%, confirmed. Anyway, I've rambled on, but this is I'm just saying how I feel when I hear these things. Yeah? When I find my feet, no matter what people tell themselves. When I find my feet, no matter what people tell themselves, their body can't stand it. Do you know how powerful that is? When I find my feet, no matter what you tell yourself, you can talk all the stuff before the fight. Pulev was talking the greasiest. I like it. Very nice. Giving it all the energy. Yeah? Giving it all that energy he was. I'm going to do it to my people. So he said, 100%. Gets in there, gets touched. And AJ wasn't even touching him properly, for truth be known. Wasn't even touching him properly a bit. Because if he was, he'd have been out of there in the first 2-3 rounds. Tops. I wouldn't give him 3 rounds. And I said that before the fight, by the way. Sent no bandwagon Don. I said before the fight, this is a 4-round, 3-round, 2-round job. 1-round job. 100%. No doubt. And then, lo and behold, 2 rounds in, Pulev would have been gone if it had been the YB training him. No doubt. Or even McGuigan. That's how great AJ is. You saw bits of it, or you saw the skill wasn't there, in my opinion. The offensive skill wasn't there. The offensive IQ wasn't there against Pulev. Too wasteful. But the ability, how great he can be, was there. The fact he isn't even trying and isn't even being efficient, and Pulev's already halfway out of there in 2 rounds. That's why I do these videos. That's what frustrates me. They've got to get this fixed up. Because we've got, in my opinion, possibly the greatest boxer ever lived in front of us, in my opinion. AJ trained the right way is the greatest boxer ever lived, from what I observe, or can be. At the moment, we're not on that path, in my opinion. We've come off it a bit. Still means you're still going to beat Fury, still going to beat the whole division. But it's how it's done, is what I'm concerned about. I'm not, people think, oh, why be this, that, the other. I'm not bothered about winning, becoming undisputed. That's not even a question. Beating Fury and all this, that doesn't faze me at all. Nothing's changed there. But it's how it's done. It's the difference between going 12 rounds with Fury and winning, or hitting him from pillar to post and sending him into retirement like Vlad. I can see that happening. In my mind, I want AJ to murk Fury so badly, he scraps it and says, "Yeah, you know what, I'm retiring. I don't want no more." Same as Vlad did. People laughing, saying, "Oh, YB, AJ could never whoop Fury into retirement." Yeah, well, they said that about Vlad as well. Yeah? That's what we do know. Everyone would have said the same thing. Oh, there's no way AJ's going to send Vlad into retirement and make him cancel the rematch contract. They were contracted for 2 fights, the same way AJ and Fury will be. Yeah? Don't forget that. The same way. So, there it is. And he finds his feet. There's no one that can hold the shots. But you got to be finding that feet. You got to be, you know what I mean? You got to be doing that. At the moment, that's not being done. Getting in there and digging away and finding your feet and working. And if anyone who's questioning what I'm saying, watch the Takam fight. Takam's a much more aggressive fighter compared to Pulev, and still AJ didn't care. Takam's a small, one of them ones, and AJ didn't think twice about it. March forward. The shots are bouncing off. Robocop style. That combined with more skill. Remember that Takam fight was 5 years ago. That with more skill over years of learning is the path to the greatest ever, in my opinion. This other thing where not just me, everyone's saying Peter Fury, everyone's saying it's looking confused. This ain't the path to greatness, which is fine. Everyone comes off like, did you think it's going to be a straight path to greatness? Do you think you become the greatest ever just by ticking along and doing what you've always done and staying with Rob McCracken? That'd be too easy, wouldn't it? Oh, I found this. From the very start of my career, I found the greatest trainer ever, and I never came off the beaten track, and I just went straight to the greatest ever. It's never going to work like that. Life ain't a fairy tale. So with that in mind, you got to understand these principles. It would be, think for all you man disagreeing, don't you think it sounds a bit too easy? Oh, I got Rob McCracken, and it's just been, you know what I mean? It's been a single journey to the greatest ever. I don't think so. The road must be, what's that theory? It's a theory of, I'm not sure what it's called. Is it entropy? I'm not sure. But basically, things in life, there's too many factors going on. There's too many moving parts in the world. There's too many atoms randomly moving around for you to just find one trainer and, you know what I mean, become the greatest thing that's ever lived. Now, it's not much more complex. I mean, you've only got to go to Shane McGuigan, yeah? You've only got to make that little tiny step, and I'm not being funny. God's made it easy for you. God's put him halfway in your camp. He's already with Okoli. He's right there. He's put him right in front of you. God's been listening to the YB and said, yo, YB, I hear that. Let me line him up in front of him. I can't push it on him, but I'll line it up right in front of him. What more can we do?